Footsteps echo in the hollow night. Street lights flicker like they're scared of the fight. In my chest, a fire. No peace to find, the beast inside it claws my mind. Crimson shadows dance in my head. A thousand screams, the words left unsaid. I walk the line where the living dread. One step closer, the hunger's fed. Mirror cracked, my reflection's alive. Eyes like razors cutting the sky. Fingers twitching, my hands are tied. But the urge is a flood I can't deny. Crimson shadows dance in my head. A thousand screams, the words left unsaid. I walk the line where the living dread. One step closer, the hunger's fed. Whispers crawl like snakes in my brain. Every heartbeat pounding like rain. Is it madness or just my chain? The desire rises, sweet and insane. Crimson shadows dance in my head. A thousand screams, the words left unsaid. I walk the line where the living dread. One step closer, the hunger's fed.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome. I decided to head to the house after cruising around. Those of you that joined me on the live that I did straight from YouTube, thank you so much once again for joining me and taking the little tour on this Friday night. I decided to get on the computer with Jeff tonight. He will be joining me shortly. And we're going to talk about Idaho. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've always wondered, some of the things that we've thought about, some of the recent documents that have been released, some of the videos that have been released, and just give you our own insight as to the conversation that we have behind the scenes. Thank you so much for that, Common Sense. I didn't even realize that Air Museum was here. I didn't even realize that. I need to come back to this area and check it out more often. So, yes, we are live, and Jeff will be joining us soon, and he will be giving his perspective on the Idaho case as well. Um, so, in between there, I do wanna kind of take some time to discuss what we're going to discuss tonight. When it comes to this case, as you all know, there's been a lot of up and downs with the gag order, the synopsis in which they were trying to keep from the public. And if you know, the date is November 7th. So in 6 days will be 3 years that this Idaho tragedy happened. 3 years already in 6 days. Can you imagine what that family is going through? Can you imagine what that family is going through? It's terrible that in 6 days will be another year that they have to relive everything that happened to them from the phone calls, from the finding out various parts of information that may or may not been true, the ups and downs of the emotional turmoil that the surviving roommates had to endure and continue to endure. Just because they have GoFundMe money and things like that does not mean that all of that went away. Hello to everybody who's entered the chat. Thank you so much. And Walt, I will discuss that with you in Discord. If you want to send me a message, we can talk about it. Okay. Um, you know, when it comes to the situation surrounding this case, there's been so much stated, so much speculated on because of the gag order. People have gone round and round about this case. Even as of late, when we continue to get the information that we do, people continue to not have an understanding that the information that's being given to us is almost 3 years old. Almost 3 years old. So think about that. 3 years old, this information that we're getting has been sitting on the desk of the prosecution and the defense for almost 3 years. And at that point, what we're seeing is not new information, it's information that's been around since they investigated the crime at the start of 11:56 a.m. when the police were called. From that moment, the dispatch answered that dispatch phone call till Brian Christopher Koberger pleaded guilty on July 23rd. All this stuff has been known. And I believe that a lot of people don't understand that the information that we're seeing today, it's new to us, but it's not new to the police. It's not new to the investigators. It's not new to the forensic teams. It's not new to any of those people. So, there's a lot of questions. Well, I'm not a policeman. I'm actually a probation officer. I do have a criminal justice degree, and so I have kind of a background in the investigative process because they do teach that with your degree. Um, Actually, I got my degree almost around the same time Brian was sentenced, or he pled out. So think about what I'm saying at this point, that there's still individuals that do not believe that what we see on a daily basis is factual. That is factual. You got an ad. I didn't know ads were running, but that's weird. There's the link, Jeff. You ready to come up? Um, so when we talk about this crime, you have to ask yourself, did what we're getting now, is it something that they understood at the time of the crime, or was it something that, let me make a slot for Jeff because I don't know why that's so big right there, but let me minimize these a little bit. Whoa, the hell? Hold on, Jeff. I don't know if you're in here yet, but hold on a minute. It used to have two little slots where they were smaller. There's the link, Jeff, if you want to come on up. I'm going to delete these and make new ones.
How do 12?
I just heard gunshot. Are they shooting guns over there where you're at, Jeff?
No, I heard that. That's a Texas thing.
Yeah, just heard gunshots. I don't know what's up with that. And I don't know what's up with these. There they are. Okay, that's a little better. I can deal with that.
Yeah, I like your dice on your.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I don't know if you caught that a little bit ago, but I was talking about in 7 days will be the anniversary of the 3 year Idaho
All
case.
right, today's November 7th.
Yeah. And I was
Hard to
saying,
believe it's been that long.
yeah, and I was saying that, can you imagine the family's anxiety and everything that's going on leading up to the anniversary?
Yeah, that's got to be a hard thing. I mean, I feel for, anybody that has a tragic thing happen around the holidays, whether Thanksgiving or, Christmas, Hanukkah and all that. But I mean, any anniversary of a tragic event is awful. But I tell you what, of all the
Well,
tragic events that I have had happen in my life, there aren't YouTubers on the other side that are basically pouring salt into the wound on a daily basis, you know, um, keeping
thank
it
God.
alive. And
Thank God, right?
yeah,
Have you heard about the movie that they're making about
yeah,
the
yeah,
Idaho
the
court case?
Lifetime movie, right?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Man, that's that's it's so there's so many opinions, obviously, that we can see. We all see it on what happened, what type of person this person is. You know, um, even though they kind of derogatorily call him Santa, Bill Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a nice name. So
Right.
it's funny, one group of people looks at Bill Thompson as an awful, awful person, and then the other side is the complete opposite. And it's so
So,
how do you do a movie when everybody's split like that?
I mean, can you imagine the kids hearing adults calling this individual a monster and Santa is supposed to be an innocent type, I don't know how you would describe it, a symbol of love, peace, and prosperity during the time of the holidays. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Did you ever view Santa as an evil person?
No, no, never. Santa, yeah, Santa. Our tradition, or I don't know when it started, but some people put out cookies and milk for Santa.
Yeah.
I have a feeling maybe it was just one of those Christmas Eves where mom forgot. It's like, oh man, we forgot to buy cookies. So one year, I guess it became a tradition that we had a cheese sandwich and milk for Santa,
Yeah.
or maybe sometimes when you're a kid, you don't realize how tight finances are because that's not your problem, right? When you're a kid, maybe it had a little to do with that, perhaps. I don't know. Sorry, Santa, you can't get cookies here, but you can get a cheese sandwich. But he always took a bite out of it, so we knew he liked it the next morning, right?
I don't know why you got kicked out. That's terrible. Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. Um,
Welcome back.
Jeff, this case, like I was saying, has a lot of ups and downs. And without calling names or calling ourselves certain names, you know, um, a lot of the theories that have been going on about this case, do you believe without the gag order they would have still been as severe, or do you believe that the gag order um, made the case worse by hiding that information from the public?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with other cases and gag orders or ones that didn't have gag orders. But I mean, my gut feeling is that when you when you're when you kind of kept in the dark on a lot of things, then you kind of make up for yourself what you think is going on. Like I always think about like what comes to mind is like the story of Chicken Little. You know how an acorn from a tree fell on Chicken Little's head, and Chicken
Right,
Little was convinced that the sky's falling because it was a piece of the sky that hit his head. Well, because he didn't have the true information, he filled it in with something else, and then the bad thing is just like a YouTuber, he went and he told all of the whole neighborhood, "Sky's falling, sky's falling." He started to try to, he didn't. Maybe now in Chicken Little's case, he didn't realize he was doing it. I don't think he was in trying to spread, misinformation, but that's in essence what he was doing.
right, right.
So maybe the gag order is kind of the same. It's like
I
it's
mean,
like
I
okay,
believe the gag order. I believe the gag order hurt the case a lot more than it helped it. I mean, because in essence, all the stuff that we've seen since the gag order was lifted, is there anything in the evidence that you've heard or seen that the public was being protected from as far as a fair trial is concerned?
I mean, there was probably individuals that were being protected, right?
Yeah.
Could they have foreseen the law enforcement? Could they have foreseen how crappy Dylan and Bethany would be treated by social media? I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they had a feeling, that could happen. I mean, I would imagine that their concern, don't you think? This is where my mind goes, is that their concern would be the more it's the tighter you keep it to the vest, the less you're just putting out there for Ann Taylor to twist it to make it the way she wants it to appear. It's kind
But
of
at
like the
the
less
but
said,
at the same time, you have to understand as well as many other people is the defense and the prosecution. They were basically one and the same. You know what I mean? Even though Ann's job is to defend Brian and to kind of get him off or create reasonable doubt, they're both prevalent to the same information. So it's really you. I guess I
Mm,
if you're saying twist the case, I guess you're saying like conform it to trying to create reasonable doubt, which I can see that. I don't know if
yeah.
that's what you meant, but maybe I'm misconstruing what you're meaning.
Well, yeah, yeah. No, you got it right. You got it right. I think that's what I am trying to say, and also that whereas Bill Thompson was, for the most part, quiet,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for the trial date. His concern was the jury, not the public. I think Ann Taylor went the opposite direction, and she went to the public. She even
Right.
went to the public so far as to then say, "Well, the public knows too much. We can't have the trial in the Moscow area. It's got to be moved. The public knows too much here, they're
They're gonna
like we
burn
talk
down the
about."
fire. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
that's
gonna burn
exactly what I
down
was
the
gonna say.
firehouse.
Yeah,
Not the
we all
firehouse, the courthouse. I'm sorry.
we always speculated that it was like one guy mentioned that, and then that was the example they used.
Yeah, they're gonna burn down the courthouse. We gotta get out of here.
And that's the kind of stuff that you create a reasonable doubt, and you're also, she's painting a picture of that the people of this little town are violent, and they've already got their minds made up. And I mean, do you know any other YouTubers that have kind of painted a similar picture of the people of Moscow being like? I mean, I can think of quite a few. It's like they make this town of Moscow out to be something like it's out of a Stephen King book, and it's like people are just whack
You ever
jobs.
see that movie Something Wicked This Way Comes? It's kind of like
I
that.
I don't think I saw it, but I know that movie title.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I know what you're talking about. You listen to certain channels, or you used to, and you'd be able to, they'd be talking about certain names as if they knew these people as relatives or friends or enemies or whatever. You know what I mean? And I still don't know very
Yeah.
many of the actors' names. I really don't. I mean, outside the immediate circle of that house, I don't know a lot of people's names. I don't even know the cops' names really by heart, and I should. But to me, that never really resonated any reason to go down that route. You know what I mean? And maybe that was my naiveness or lack of interest in that area. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, me neither. I was really never feeling the need to get into all these, because it's just like, because it sure seemed to me that this was, I just had my feeling was this is somebody that came in there, did this quickly, and then sped off and or fled. And I guess because it all made sense what uh, the narrative they put down, or I shouldn't call it narrative. That's what they want to call it. The the case as they saw it, and that they believed how it happened. It just it made sense to me. Um, so it seems like the need to go looking at all these other people and other possibilities is because you're not accepting of what law enforcement believe happened, which is what I also believe happened. So I'm
And
kind of
another
thankful to be
thing,
on this side. It's a little simpler.
and you made a comment off, while we were talking a little bit ago. You said, it's easier for people to believe that certain people could have been culpable of this crime. But when the person stood up and stated, yes, 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 there's no way that he could have done it. I mean, how is that? I mean, some of these people they've implicated didn't even get the presumption of innocence as they
Right.
were, as many people were wanting Brian to get that presumption of innocence. These other people never got that presumption of innocence. They must have been involved because of this.
Right.
So how that never made sense to me. How you can presume one person's innocent, but all these other people must have had, without a reasonable doubt, had something to do with the crime. Do you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Brian is innocent until proven guilty, and Dylan and Bethany and the family and everybody else are they're the opposite, guilty until proven innocent. And but it's also I don't get the feeling like they're like investigating everything so much. It's just that they want things to be a certain way.
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
maybe
we're
they're investigating, they're looking into things, they're
yeah.
but
You and I are in unison, and we have discussed a lot of this in the past, where we stated, you know, should Dylan have called 911? Of course. Do we understand the reasoning behind it? I never did, and I still don't. Did she see or maybe hear more than she stated, or that the police have stated? There's a chance. But people often only tell so much. You know what I mean? Does that
well,
mean they're
how when
all
you're
truthful?
let me how when you're drunk, how drunk are you after 8 hours?
Hmm.
I mean, are you still the same level of drunkenness? So the thing is that there's how she was around 4 a.m. This is my speculation, as Gatorbait um, is it correctly said. Yeah, we're all just speculating.
Right.
But we're speculating. Everybody has bias too. We're speculating and trying to kind of keep a rein on our bias. But she's drunk at 4 a.m. She in the interviews she explained, she had what White Claws. She had something called a Borg, I think, or is that what it's? Is that something with vodka, or was it board? I heard people talking about it. I think even just today. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that she's really drunk at 4 a.m. wondering, you're not expecting to see something awful like a murderer walking through your house. You don't know what you've just seen.
Right.
8 hours later, she's out in the street in front of the house talking to law enforcement
Right.
with an understanding that this is she kind of has some knowledge of something awful has happened now. So now it's a different situation. She's trying to search her memory that was, hours earlier saturated with alcohol. Now she's trying to, you know, trudge through that memory of hers to try and help. And I think even when she's on the street, doesn't she ask a question of the law enforcement that reveals to me that she doesn't at that point know that Kaylee and Maddie are deceased. She's asking about them, and the officer is careful. I think he starts to answer, but then he kind of tries his best to not reveal that they're gone. He knows they're gone, but he's probably out of just to not be the one to break the news to her what the truth is, but also just not to, they're still investigating. He's not wanting to. He's wanting to hear what people have to say rather than, tell people what's going on. He wants to hear what they have to say fresh, without any kind of influence. Just what do you know? Tell us the truth. And I think personally, I think when they say on that 911 call, something's happened in our house and we don't know what, I think that is some of the truest words ever spoken.
Well, let me give you something that happened here. And this happened 2 nights ago. Woke up the next morning. My sister-in-law and my brother lived next door, and they said their alarm was going off. Cops were here. They were banging on doors, all this stuff. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear the dogs barking. Didn't hear none of that. They didn't wake up. So is it possible to sleep through noise? Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it really is. But we don't know if she had anything on. And without speculating, I'm not going to say that I know that she had headphones on, if she had earpods on. I didn't, because obviously she woke up, 3 times? And no time that she woke up, she was clear enough to have heard certain things. Was she concise on exactly who she heard? No, she didn't say concisely, I heard this was so and so. She said, what sounded like so and so. What sounded like somebody crying in the bathroom. What
Right.
sounded like. You know what I mean? She wasn't saying definitively, this is what I heard. Could she have heard more and just played it off to something else? Of course, we all do that. Or could she have been culpable for assisting somebody in murdering these 4 people? Was there any of her DNA on their blood? Have we seen that in the documents? No, we haven't. Was there any of her DNA in any of the rooms on any of the objects that could have associated her with being part of the crime? Not that we've been prevalent to. How about Bethany? Was there any of her stuff anywhere in the house other than where obviously she lived, so there would be DNA all over the place. But what I'm saying is, if either one of these people had anything to do with the murder, wouldn't there have been blood somewhere in their rooms, somewhere on their clothing, somewhere on their bedding? I mean, 8 hours is 8 hours, but you're not. I mean, Brian had a month head start.
Hmm.
He didn't have 8 hours. I believe if he would have had 8 hours and they would have apprehended him, they would have got the knife, they would have got the clothing, they would have got more stuff from him than a month later. That's my little take on that. I mean, people may agree or may disagree. You know what I mean?
Well, also too, I mean, my perspective is that I truly think they have the right guy. They've arrested the right guy, and on the light bulb camera, that Elantra that you see speeding away just before 421, speeds around, makes that quick right turn onto King, makes a left onto Taylor, and is just pedal to the metal going up Walenta Hill. That's what a killer does after murdering. Why would they think that Dylan and Bethany, if they were involved, would just hang around the house? Why wouldn't they have been fleeing and leaving the country? Just getting themselves out of that house, not being there. I mean, if they're the last two that are alive and they cover for each other's story, they can just go somewhere else and nobody would ever know whether they were there or not. But
Well,
for
let
them
me
to
ask you
be
this.
there,
Let me. I mean, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate
sure, I
tonight
love it
because
too.
I
It's
mean,
cool.
you know, we may never know, but it's interesting to think about. If they were in fear of their lives, wouldn't they have ran out the front door? Wouldn't they have ran out the slider? Were they so in fear that they were uncertain what happened, so they stayed put? Do you believe that if they would have known a murder happened in their house, they would have ran out?
No, well, yeah, because they would have probably thought that they'd run into the killer, outside. Or
Keep
that's a cool
talking.
ringtone. I think it makes me think. Wait, I had a thought. Now I'm losing it. You hate when that happens. Um, oh, the notion that because Bethany made a comment in an interview that regarding the firecracker or whatever she was talking about, and she had mentioned that she thought for a second, could it be a prank? And oh, I know. So that leads to, like, if they were under the impression that maybe they were being pranked, maybe somebody was just being really kind of cruel and pranking them. Um, that maybe the fear that they were experiencing wasn't fear of a killer, but fear of just drunk frat guys pulling a prank, and they're young, attractive girls. Who knows what a drunk frat guy is going to do? Maybe it starts as an innocent prank, and then it just turns into something else. But so, I mean, part of me would be interested to get a little bit better definition of exactly what kind of fear they actually had. And they're talking about it 8 hours later to the police, and they kind of understand, that they've got deceased friends. So as they're talking about the fear, is the fear morphed into something now they have more knowledge and information of what happened. So
Right.
as they're talking about it, we get the impression from them that they had the same fear with the understanding of death, that they had that at 4 a.m., but I don't think they did. I think at 4 a.m. they don't know what's going on.
I mean,
Bi-
I've stated that, honestly, in my belief, Dylan is the worst witness of all time. Honestly, and I'm
yeah.
not saying that to shame her. I'm not saying that to belittle her. But as far as a witness to a crime, she's all over the place. And that doesn't mean she's lying. It means that she's just a bad witness. I mean, they got what they needed from her. And at the very beginning, we heard that her eyewitness testimony was only going to be used to set the timeline. That's it.
Hmm.
Not so much to identify the killer or perpetrator or anything like that, but merely just to set the timeline. And I can understand that. And I can see now exactly why they would only use that for that.
It's kind of
Because
interesting, don't you think? Like Ann Taylor was, I think, simply just trying to get Dylan's testimony thrown out. The YouTube streets are trying to pin it on Dylan. It's
yeah,
kind of, it's an extreme. I mean, I, and the only thing I can think of is like, why would you want to do that, and why would your mind speculate in that direction? And the only thing that I can really come up with most times is that we don't want it to be Brian. So who else can we make it be?
but
How
even
else
in
can
the
we explain this
PCA,
so it's not Brian?
even in the PCA, we didn't hear about Bethany very much. We've never heard about Bethany very much other than the exculpatory evidence. And I
Hmm.
believe that that was that investigator's opinion much more than factual because what we've read, there's not been a hint of exculpatory evidence. There's not been one hint of, well, she saw this, she heard. The only thing that's different than what Dylan heard was the firecracker
Hmm.
and the flash that we've been told. Is that
Right.
wrong or is that correct? In your
Yeah, no,
thought
that sounds
process?
right. Yeah, I don't know what specifically the exculpatory evidence that she was supposed to have had exactly is.
Because the exculpatory would have been something that would have been able to set the defendant free of being at the crime scene or culpable of the murder. And, we haven't been shown that.
Yeah.
We have not. So I've always wondered about that is what was the exculpatory evidence?
Oh, you know what? I think I got a phone call I got to take here. Yep.
Okay.
Hold on a
Um,
sec. I'll be back in just a sec.
go ahead. So if you're just tuning in, we're just having a conversation discussing some of the things that we've heard, seen, and expressed during the time of discussing this case in almost the 3 year time frame that we have at this point. Um, you know, because he was aggressive and Bethany didn't like him. Okay, that's interesting for reals. Um, but it's always puzzled me that there's never been anywhere that I've read, and I haven't read every document that's dropped. So if I'm wrong here, don't come at me because I don't have the time to do that. For one, I do the best I can as is, but nowhere where I've skimmed through these documents have I read any portion that discussed the exculpatory evidence of what she could have seen, heard, witnessed. I mean, exculpatory evidence would have said, okay, I didn't see a man dressed in all black. Could have been, anything. It could have been anything. I saw a man run out the front door, or I looked out my window and saw three people running out the front door. I mean, anything that would have given the defendant an out. And there hasn't been any of that. And I wonder where that went. Where did it go? Not saying that it was false. I just wonder where it went because that was a big deal. That was a big deal. Um, hey PKC, thank you for being here. That was a big deal at one point in time that Bethany had exculpatory evidence that was only known to her and the killer. So did she know who the killer was? Was that the exculpatory evidence? Was the killer shorter? Was he not dressed all in black? Did she see a different person? Because supposedly she saw somebody running naked, or my beliefs are in his skivvies, So if she saw somebody running naked, that would have been contradictory to Dylan seeing somebody dressed in all black. So I could see that being exculpatory. I could. Because you can't say that's inculpatory, you'd say that's exculpatory. So if she did actually see that, it's not mentioned anywhere in the documents. And I wonder exactly what the reason for that is. What would be the reason that they would not discuss the exculpatory evidence? And also the grand jury, I've heard multitudes of individuals have issues with the grand jury. And I know we're kind of going back in time a little bit, but we're jumping all over the place. But all this stuff, it gets talked about every day by multitudes of channels. And I'm not talking about just the older channels, I'm talking about newer channels, I'm talking about on TikTok, I'm talking about social media in general. And the grand jury indictment, and another part of that I would believe that was not needed was all the stuff that was coming out as far as either the family discussing it or certain things that were released that were saying that some of the jurors wanted more information, they weren't clear about it. Well, if you heard all that stuff, that would make you believe that the jurors really weren't certain enough to indict him, but they did. I could see that part. I really could. And I've never doubted that. And I don't doubt the outcome of this case. I'm just saying that, um, I have always asked that question: is the grand jury indicted him? Supposedly, Dylan and Bethany's stories were inconsistent, supposed to the source that released that. Well, as we can see now, their stories were pretty all over the place. Inconsistent, I wouldn't say inconsistent because they have been saying the same thing since we've been able to hear it, you know? But all over the place, yeah. You know, well, let me know if you get that request, Walt. I'd love to hear that 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 FOIA request answer. And I'm sorry that you were watching a different channel and getting mad. You should never get upset over watching YouTube. It should be, you know, pretty calming to most people. But, what I was saying as far as the grand jury indictment, for those of you that still do not understand what the grand jury is, it's a panel of like 23 to 26 people. The defense is not there, the defendant is not there. Most of the people that testify before the grand jury are police officers, investigators, forensic people, and the prosecution is going over the case, meaning that this is the evidence that we have, and probably the affidavit was probably being formulated at that point enough for him to read exactly what they had so far. So the fact that they indicted him should not been a it should not have been that much of a surprise. I mean, they called those witnesses. Were the witnesses inconsistent? They said they were. So I'm not one to say otherwise. I mean, if somebody says something, who am I to sit there and argue that they're wrong and I'm right? I wasn't there in the grand jury indictment hearing. I wasn't, prevalent to any of that information, as most of us haven't been. So to say, we know more than the people were in the room, I mean, I guess you could say that, but I'm not going to say that because I wasn't in that room. But that is the general outline of the grand jury indictment. And, During that time, the exculpatory evidence was being thrown around that there was going to be a preliminary hearing, and Bethany was going to deliver the exculpatory evidence for the defense. Supposedly, the prosecution hurried up and had the grand jury indictment, therefore, she was not able to do so. So, um, is that shady? Depends on which way you look at it. I mean, if we were going side by side, if we were working with Bill Thompson, would it look shady to us, or would we understand the law? If we were working with Ann Taylor, would that have been a shady move, or would that have been a move that was an option for you and you took it? Was was that a move that Bill Thompson made that he knew that he could make, and he kind of cornered her or got her pawn at that point? Because it is almost like a game of chess. So you have to ask yourself, instead of pairing these two as adversaries, they're one and the same, for the fact that one just trying to prove reasonable doubt for the defendant, and the other one trying to prove that the individual actually caused the crime without reasonable doubt. So, that's okay, Jeff. As far as the defense, they didn't have to open their mouths on anything. They didn't have to fight any of it, because it is the prosecution's job to bring the burden of proof. And whether you believe they did or whether they didn't, I mean, honestly, throughout the whole thing, we really didn't hear a lot from the prosecution. Only in the motions to suppress and the motions in limine. Otherwise, we didn't hear from the prosecution at all. We heard from the defense more than we heard from the prosecution. So it kind of makes you believe that the prosecution felt that maybe their case was airtight. Maybe they believed that their case was airtight, and they were just letting the defense what's the word? Exhaust their emotions and get to the point that, the individual would have no other recourse but to plead guilty. And that's where we ended up with this case and everything in between. So we are waiting on Jeff H to come back. I was supposed to go live with an individual as well. I don't know if he wants me to name him, but I guess something came up, so I booked Jeff H quickly. Not that Jeff was chopped liver or anything. It just, I didn't want to come up by myself tonight because I'd already been up twice by myself. So let me know in the chat what you think the exculpatory evidence really was. I mean, there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. I mean, just give me something that you yourself in your mind has created, or in the comments if you watch this on replay. What is it that you believe was exculpatory to the defendant, to Brian, that was not heard, not seen, and not able to be discussed, and has yet to be brought forth in any of these documents? What exactly was that exculpatory evidence, or was there even any exculpatory evidence? Okay, some sort of text messages. But I believe we saw all the text messages. Have we not gotten all the text messages at this point, you believe? That is a good thought, though. That is a good thought. I'm not downing it whatsoever. I mean, there could have been some private text messages that, I mean, could the exculpatory have been the fact that she believed that Xana was dressed all in black, so therefore that could have been saying, okay, Xana dressed all in black. There's no way that it could have been anybody else dressed in black.
Hey, 12, I'm back. Sorry.
All right, it's all right. I got a phone call too, so you did it for me, so I'm doing it for you. Um, so we're talking about the exculpatory evidence. I'm asking the chat um, if they believe there was any kind of exculpatory evidence or anything like that.
What was wasn't there a early report that somebody saw somebody naked, like a
Yeah,
naked man?
yeah. Supposedly that was Bethany.
So is that, I mean, is that what was they were considering exculpatory? Or
Well,
as
that came.
Gatorbait
That
says,
came.
exfoliating?
Um, I remember Swamp Rose had an article that she presented one time on one of her lives, and I know you used to watch Swamp as well.
Hmm.
Swamp, if you're listening, I hope you're doing well.
Same
I
here.
am
Same here.
plugging your channel, even though I haven't seen you do anything in a while. But she presented it one time from an investigator that she had, a documentation that she presented that this investigator had written in that investigative report that there was some exculpatory evidence that was pertinent to Bethany and the defendant that only both of them would have known about.
Hmm. I wonder if we'll ever find out, exactly what it was.
I don't know. I don't know. And that is wild to me that has never been discussed so far. I mean, surely we
Yeah.
haven't gotten all the how many terabytes of evidence?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think is yet to be revealed or released to the public still?
I don't know. It seems like we're going through the evidence a lot faster than Anne was, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, I always said, when she's complaining about like she doesn't have enough time, it's like, man, you got all these YouTubers that would be happy to help put in that for free.
Right,
Let
right.
us see the footage and we'll
I mean,
we'll catalog everything.
there's people that are zooming through the 2,300 pages of documents like it's nothing, and I'm like, wow.
Right.
I
I
mean,
always picture like Brian Enton, he doesn't sleep at all. He's just got Red Bulls, he's reading all the documents and going through 'em.
let's see what PKC has to say. She said, originally I thought BF saw someone designate or DoorDash and was going to convince her that she saw the perp instead of DoorDash. Since Bethany has now never said anything about seeing anyone, I have no idea. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, what you were saying about, with Bethany saying Dylan was wearing black. Yeah, maybe that had something to do with I don't know though. Sure sounded like when they said exculpatory evidence, it just sounds like it's, that's something, a reason. Although, maybe it could be something very small, and then they realize that the bang for the buck that they're going to get is to plant that idea in everybody's head that, oh, this is exculpatory towards Brian. This proved that he's wasn't him.
But I mean,
And
that's what that means, though. That she would
yeah,
have some kind of evidence that only her and him would know about
but if
that
she
would
was
possibly cast doubt on the fact that he was the killer.
but what if Ann Taylor is mistaken about it and it isn't exculpatory? I mean, what if she knows it isn't exculpatory, but plays the role of, I'll just be mistaken. You can be mistaken about something, and it has quite a powerful impact to just state it.
Right.
And it's almost like you say afterwards, "Oh, my bad." Or like when they tell the jury, they've just heard something that's very damning and just educates them very richly on some aspect of the case, and the judge says, "Okay, you have to strike that. You can't consider what you just heard." It's like, how hard is that to do? I mean, you hear something that makes things make sense, and then the judge says, you can't use that. You've got to, it's outside the scope or whatever. It's not what do you call it? Am I describing it right? Something that's objected to for some reason. It can't be something that they consider when they go back to the jury room.
Hearsay.
Yeah, or just that it wasn't brought into evidence. It's not something that they're
Well, that
permitted to talk
also,
about.
that's a good point that you're making, because that's something else that people don't have a real grounded effect, I think, sometimes, is that the discovery can only be shared so much to the defense. If you don't have the discovery by a date, or vice versa, the defense sharing with the prosecution, you present this after the date, none of that's going to be allowed in court. So, how
Right.
much was presented after the deadline that wasn't even admissible in the court? Are we seeing some of that in these documents? That some of this stuff wasn't admitted into the court process? Because it didn't sound like Bill had a very strong, well, this is what, it didn't sound like he was too certain that he had a home run, so to speak, when he was reading that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Hey,
Yeah, no, I think
Linda.
I think he didn't feel, and probably everybody felt. They don't have it all, but I really do think that they had enough. I mean, I have a feeling you and I are like-minded on this. That what little we know, we're kind of convinced they've got the right guy. Everything seems to make sense. They've got this white Elantra that's behaving very strangely, behaving just like somebody that's preparing to go do a murder might behave, speeding away just like somebody that just committed a murder might, how they might drive.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. Nobody's ever really used the 4 dead bodies as evidence of the crime. That is evidence. The stab wounds,
Hmm.
the blunt force trauma, all that is evidence. So if you're tying somebody to a crime, you're backtracking, so to speak. Did this individual have any wounds? Well, a month later, we saw he had cuts on his hands, right? The photo that we saw supposedly at 10:30 in the morning, his fist looked swollen. Did it not?
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't quite determine, but I can't deny he's got a Band-Aid on his
So
finger, and
how
we even saw the knuckle that's cut.
so how is that not tied to the evidence at the crime scene? Because people say, well, you don't have the knife, so how can you say that the sheath was part of the evidence? The sheath could have been there without the knife. Okay. Well, there were stab wounds. So obviously there was a knife involved. There was a fixed blade knife, right?
Hmm.
There was blunt force trauma. You and I have discussed how the end of the K bar could have been used as, a hammer, as you
The
say.
hammer, bludgeon. Yeah.
And how do people not correlate that those 4 dead bodies were evidence in themselves? There could have been things on those bodies that told a story that they didn't need a lot of other evidence, physical evidence in the house to present in the crime in the court. You
Right.
know, you hear all the time, all they have is a gun and a video. They don't have fingerprints, they don't have this, they don't have that. They got a video of somebody shooting somebody. They have the gun, they have the physical description. Sometimes they don't have the DNA. Circumstantial evidence convicts people all the time. So to
Hmm.
say that you needed a smoking gun in order to get a conviction, that's that's a little extreme at times, I believe.
Do you
What's
think
your
the
thought?
jury would have given him the death penalty, or you think the jury would have basically put him right where he is now with the arrangement that he's pretty much got now?
Well, either way, she was fighting tooth and nail to get that death penalty taken off. So she must
Yeah.
have been scared that the jury would have given him death, because that was her whole outlook. Was he? There were two things that I took from all this. She wanted a fair trial, and then she wanted the death penalty gone, and she started that from jump.
Right. That's a
Do you
good point.
believe?
That's a good point. That because I can remember when it was all about the getting the death penalty off of there early on. There was a
Yeah,
part
there
of
was.
me I was thinking, I was like, is she actually kind of like stepping outside of her duties as a defense attorney, and does she have like some personal beliefs and stances on the death penalty, and she's using this opportunity to try and you know to to basically attack the death penalty, the idea of the death penalty. I remember thinking that early on,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that
maybe
was
that's
from
why.
jump. Yeah, that was from jump. Even before, she started that in judge's court. You know, and
Yeah.
we've always heard about a fair trial. It was those two things, because I believe in her mind, if she could cause either one of those things to be reasonable doubt, like, cause confusion enough to create reasonable doubt where either the public or whoever served on that jury could be uncertain, then in her eyes, that could have been a fair trial for the defense. Because I believe he would have got a fair trial no matter where he was, because as the outcome was, he pled. So,
Hmm.
you know, um, you don't think he would have pled in Latah as the courthouse was burning?
Yeah, I hope one
Do
day
you think he would have got a fair trial?
oh, in Latah County.
Either place. Do you
Yeah,
believe
I
that
think so. I
everything
think
was fair up to the point?
I think now maybe I'm naive, but I think that the people involved, jury members. I've watched jury interviews with jury members that were on the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell cases. I mean, I got the sense that they take this job very seriously. It's a big responsibility in society to be a voice that determines whether somebody lives or dies based on a crime, and that's a serious matter. And I would think no different that they would find that they would have been able to find a jury in the Latah area. But I mean, I think everything went the way that I mean, I'm glad Judge Hippler became part of it. It sure seemed like Judge was maybe a little over his head and with things, and
Because
maybe
he
didn't
was,
even want to really do it. I mean, Judge Hippler kind of came out and broke the ice, made lighten the mood right from the start, saying, I would say it's nice to be here, but I don't want to start this all out with a lie. But
yeah,
I think,
Judge Judge acted like he didn't want to be there either. I mean, he acted distracted the whole time.
yeah,
It's like an old flame was in the courtroom and he was enmeshed by her beauty. You know what I
and it's
You and
almost
I
like
had
when you're on
joked
an
about that.
right, right, right. Yeah, I often made jokes like, is any chance that they dated or something at some point? And this is kind of awkward, and but that was only joking around. But it almost seemed like, yeah, Judge would often sound like somebody that's a little new on the job. Like, now what do we do here? And what am I supposed to do here? What is the appropriate thing? You know,
Right,
she
right.
must have been thinking to herself, it's like, oh my gosh, we can. I really don't understand why they wanted to change to a different venue and a different judge. Why would they want to throw out Judge? I mean, she had him on the end of a leash, pretty much. It seemed.
It did.
He was
It
he was
did.
asking her, Anne, what should I do? What do you think? Is this appropriate? Is it,
I mean, that's what we're discussing, Danya. You know, whether people view it as reasonable doubt, that's their belief. I'm not here to change anybody's opinion of what happened or what didn't happen, what should happen. I mean, people are going to believe as they believe. Jeff and I are just having a conversation because we're kind of reliving it on a 3-year anniversary. I mean, in 6 days,
hmm
these people lost their lives. So we spent a lot of hours talking about this. I've never talked about something specific other than football and given it more time in my life. Hell, I'm sure your family, your wife, is probably jealous at times that you're not talking about her as much as you
Right,
talk
right.
about Idaho.
Yeah, my daughter, every time I say, "Hey, look, Hyundai Elantra," we're driving down the road. She's like, "Oh God, not at the Hyundai Elantra again." I was like, "Yeah, look at it. That's an 11 to 13. You know how I know?" She's like, "I don't want to know. I don't want to know."
I don't want to know, Dad. Shut up.
That's a 14 to 16 over there. That
Yeah,
one I think is a 17. You start like you just can't help but notice them. I just noticed one tonight on the way home. It's like, gosh, they keep
yeah,
popping up. But
yeah.
I
I
think
never,
it's
I never
because of,
noticed as many Elantras as I do now.
and the thing I don't understand is that when some look at the light bulb camera and the Linda Lane camera, they can't see that it's an Elantra, and part of me
Yeah,
doesn't believe that. They don't, doesn't believe them. I think they. I mean, I look at it and it's like, especially the thing is if you pause it and just look at the one frame, it's not as easy as if you move it around, rewind it a little, play it forward. Okay, back it up and look at these frames in motion. Like you can see, I always say with the light bulb camera, there's like those three indicators for me that say that's an Elantra: the side window shape, the shark fin antenna on the back, and the side molding shape that has that kind of diagonal straight line protrusion from the side doors that are distinctly Elantra. It almost looks like when I look at the side of an Elantra, it's almost like if the car was made of clay and the side was smooth, and you could take a big thumb and just go from the the back of the front wheel on the lower edge and kind of push your thumb, go over the back wheel, and then curve downward. There's that protrusion, in there. We should have a
yeah.
picture of an
You
Elantra up
and
as we talk
Sarge
about.
used to talk about that a lot. I mean, and I never really. I mean, at that point, I wasn't really as invested in the Elantra as you and I ultimately became. Um, I didn't really understand what y'all were talking about as far as the reflectors and everything else. And then as time went on, I started to understand exactly what indicators y'all were discussing because there were certain indicators that other year models didn't have, and obviously they shouldn't have released certain things without the certainty of it. It's like I get why, as you're investigating something, the dude said what, 11 to what, 13?
To 13, yeah.
He said 11 to 13. Then he retracted. No, no, it could be 11 to what, 17?
No, 14 to 16 was
Oh,
the.
14 to 16. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so it's basically 3 years on either side that, I mean, the car looks almost exactly identical in all those 6 years, the first three and then the last three.
yeah.
With but the little reflectors on the bumper are the main thing that are huge that separate 11 to 13 from 14 to 16. But I think time was of the essence. Just like time is of the essence for them to go to these businesses and get the camera footage before it got erased, time is of the essence too to get out to the public this hey, if you saw or know anything about a white Elantra, we need to hear from you. And so, do they get the news out and the request out for the public to call in about an Elantra a few days later after they've double checked and triple checked and made sure that they've got the year right? Or do they just say this is close enough, this is, and for whatever reason, I mean, I would love to hear from the FBI specialist exactly what it was that made him determine initially that it was an 11 to 13.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I have my gut feeling I might know, but I don't know if it's correct, and I can't know. But I mean, there's that one image where it's because of the motion blur, it's shot from the side. You can't quite make out if there's a bumper reflector out towards the corner of the bumper. Because that if you saw it at the corner of the bumper, it's a 14 to 16. That's where they move the reflectors way out towards the corners of the car.
But it is also fair that the camera footage was not the best.
Right, right. I
I
mean,
mean, that
they were.
camera footage was crap. It
Yeah.
really was. It really was.
Well, the thing is, this isn't New York City where there's crimes all the time, and everybody's got a good quality camera on every corner and every house, and they had what they had, and wouldn't surprise me if a killer wouldn't consider this kind of thing when they decide to do a crime out in the middle of nowhere like that. It's like,
Right.
or when you're trying to cook up an alibi, do you cook up an alibi where you've done a little research that there's no cameras out here? I can say I was there and nobody can prove otherwise whether I was or not.
But also, wouldn't if you were gonna frame somebody, and let's go down that avenue. Okay,
Hmm.
let's say for the sake of just discussion, Brian didn't do this. Okay, for the sake of discussion,
Uh-huh.
let's say that Enan Harsh was the perpetrator. Wouldn't it have been a lot easier to frame him than Brian? He lived across the street.
Mm-hmm.
He had videos of him with knives.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was he had bushy eyebrows. If those are the descriptive things that people look at in order to find out whether this perpetrator could have done it or could not have done it, because I've heard multitudes of people say, well, there was a lot of people on campus with bushy eyebrows. So Enan fit. And I'll be honest with you, for a split second, I kind of thought, well, could he?
Right.
Would it have
Who's
been
that? Who's
easy?
that?
Would it
Was it
have been
Doc?
easier to frame him than Brian?
Yeah. Yeah.
He actually had conversation with Kaylee. He gave her what, champagne?
Or the first guy they interviewed, Jeremy. I think he
Yeah,
was on the
Jeremy.
front corner, kind of, near the where the trash cans were and everything.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, that guy was so reminded me so much of Stephen McDaniel
yeah.
in just the way he spoke. I mean, just because it would trigger that memory, people, might have thought, and somebody trying to frame somebody, if that ran through their mind, is like, this guy reminds me so much of Steve McDaniel. It's like he would be the guy we'd frame.
And he gave us his DNA voluntarily. Now we have all this.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. His ex-girlfriend drove the same car as BK. He could have committed a crime and attempted to frame her. Let's not start that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But she did drive an Elantra, did she not?
It is like the telephone game, and things do pass down, and it spreads around like,
Oh, that if that starts going around, you know where you heard it first on 12 gauge
yeah.
investigative.
We know where we heard it first, and we know who to blame.
Yeah, 12 gauge. Just like the green Elantra, we know who to blame. Right, Jeff?
Yep. Yep.
I was watching that video earlier, by the way.
Oh, where we were doing the infrared camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had actually I posted on my community post some videos that this guy did some really good explanation of video compression for one, and explained how video compression works. He showed like a fight in a bar that was like at like 10 frames per second, and you
Hmm.
see a guy standing in front of another guy, and then the guy is on the floor. And based on that footage, you can't really tell what happened. The guy's standing 1 second and he's on the floor the next. And then he showed the same video at like 30 or 60 frames per second, and you see the other guy punch him. You see him make connection with his fist in his face and knocks him to the floor. So the fact that there was more frames to view because it was, higher frame rate, you were able to see what happened.
So, do you believe that that's what they did with the Elantra on 1112? Do you believe that they were able to incorporate the speed of the camera footage to be able to clarify the lighting and everything?
Well, I don't think that anybody did anything to the footage, but I do think that, less frames per second is going to take up less hard drive space, and video compression is going to make the files even smaller. It's kind of the only way that you can have, hours upon hours upon hours of footage on a hard drive and not fill it within like the first hour that you use your camera. You know, you've got
Hmm.
to you've got to I mean, trying to think. I don't want to throw out numbers that are incorrect, but I mean with high quality video that's uncompressed. I mean, whenever I would do a video project and they'd shoot it somewhere and they'd send me the hard drive. I mean, they're sending me a 2 terabyte hard drive for this short little shoot, and the hard drives, is almost full. And managing these huge files is can be tricky. I've got shelves and shelves of hard drives from all these past projects. So, but I think the quality of the footage is unfortunately just it just goes with the territory. It's you got to have it. The video's got to be compressed. Just for efficiency's sake, and for being able to store it. And most times, I mean, Kane, the guy who owns the Linda Lane camera, he said in an email that the very next day he provided the FBI with the password to his network video recorder, which is where all the files from the camera get stored. And he said that it was about 30 days worth that he shared that was there, and he's pretty sure they probably took it all. But I mean, that's 30 days worth. You can do that because the files are relatively small, and they're not,
Do you believe that
unfortunately.
there was any video of him going there 23 times on that camera? You know, he
I mean,
was, he was suspected of going at least 12, but we heard up to 23. So if he was foolish enough to drive around like that to be planning this crime, do you believe that they could have captured his car clearer on that video, on that, what is it, 1330 video camera?
right. Yeah, 1330 is the one with the fence and the parking lot.
Yeah,
1320 is the dumpster. Um, I don't know,
because
like the
really,
1320 camera isn't all that useful because most of the stuff you want to see, I think, goes down Taylor Avenue, and it's just
right.
really far away, really small. The 1330 was, of course, more valuable. You could see a little better, but I don't know. I mean, he would have had to get close enough to those cameras to be seen. The one thing that I think the FBI would have the ability to do that we don't have as the public is to see what did it sound like on 1330 Linda Lane the previous Saturday night. and the night before, Saturday night before that. And while we're all listening to this Linda Lane footage, and a lot of people I see in the comments that come to my channel and that they say like, "Oh, you posted all this Linda Lane footage. Surely you must have heard this at 2 a.m. and you must think this something's going on at 1 whatever." And it's like, no, I hear a college town. I hear people yelling like they would in a college town on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
I hear
I
I
mean, do you
hear people
believe that
yelling, "You
there
can't."
was other dogs other than Murphy in that neighborhood? Or was Murphy the token dog for the
Yeah,
neighborhood, just like the token Asian woman in Pullman? There's only one
right.
Asian in Pullman, and she
And
was
Demetrius
connected.
is the only black guy in the
Yeah, in the
whole
whole
neighborhood.
in the
Yeah,
whole area, there's only token pieces to this puzzle. Is Murphy was
yeah,
the only dog barking at any point in time. Nobody else had dogs. Nobody else had dogs that were outside doing their business. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but
right,
in
right.
that isn't that the reality? There was more. I mean, how many people have the name of Kaylee? How many people have the name of Maddie? Ethan is a pretty common name as well. I have three of them on my caseload.
Hmm.
So these names are common. But the fact that you might hear them on the camera makes you instantly believe that these were the individuals being spoke of at 11:22.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I I I I feel a little more comfortable to be slow to call something a lie, when they're talking about something Dylan has said or Bethany said. And I'm also slow to say that voice that you can't make out is somebody yelling at like 2 something, that this is what they're saying. And we ran it really slow and we've analyzed it. We ran it through AI to let AI take its best guess. I mean, you should see what AI does when I use the speech enhancement from Adobe Premiere, which is basically you can mix in how much AI you want. And what it does is it's listening to the voice, it's trying its best to figure out what the person is saying. And if you crank it all the way up to 10, when you crank it all the way up to 10, I think you're hearing nothing but the voice that the AI is creating. You put it down to like 5, I think you've got a blend of the actual recorded voice and the AI voice trying to help. But there are times, man, when I've used the AI voice and crank it to 10 and it's totally messing up words, and not getting it correct. I don't know. I mean, this it's too much riding on everything for me to listen to some Linda Lane footage audio, and you can't make out. Just like the "What did you say to Adam?" video. There's something said at the very beginning of that video that most of us believe is Jack Showalter, and I can't quite make out exactly what he's saying. I know it sounds like 10 syllables to me, and it sounds like man, it's been so long I've thought about it, so I don't remember what it.
And I
Um,
believe we went over that at one night. We were replaying that over and over and over.
yeah, it sounded to me like you're gonna ditch those guys when you're inside. Yeah, 10 syllables with a pause. You're gonna ditch those guys. Pause when you're inside. That's what it
But
sounds like to me. And of course, when you try to have a conversation with somebody who wants Brian to be innocent, and it's just hard to have just a conversation about it,
but
they say,
don't you
"Well, that
believe
doesn't make
that?
any sense." Well, I know it doesn't
Don't
make any
you
sense. That's
believe
just
they
what it
would
sounds
have
like.
asked him, Jack? What did you say while you were walking down the street with the two victims? What
Yeah,
was
I
that
wonder if they did.
conversation about? What was that conversation about? What did you exactly say?
Yeah,
You don't believe that he would have said, "Well, I said, we're going to get you something to eat, Maddie.
yeah.
You're pretty drunk."
Yeah, if it sounds to me like you're gonna ditch those guys when you're inside, yeah, maybe it was something about we're gonna get you something to eat, and it's gonna go to your thighs. I mean that sounds similar. Who knows?
So how many syllables is that? We're gonna get you something to eat, Maddie. 7, 8. You're the sound guy. How many syllables is that?
Wait, say it again. What was your guess?
We're gonna get you something to eat, Maddie.
We're gonna get you something to eat, Maddie. That's 11. The
Okay,
thing is, I don't hear anything that sounds like Addie or Maddie. I mean, if you break it down into like the first half and the second half, I hear you're gonna ditch those guys. You're gonna ditch those guys. What else could sound like that? You're gonna ditch those guys. And then the last
yeah.
part is when you're inside.
I mean, would that not sound if you were ha- most people when they're drinking, after you drink, you go look for a 24-hour place to get some food.
Uh
And
huh.
if Maddie was as intoxicated as people assume, that would have that would have made sense. We're gonna get you something to eat, or we're gonna get you some grub, Maddie. You know
Oh, geez. Don't try Chat GPT.
what?
I put it into Chat GPT. What else sounds like you're going to ditch those guys when you're inside? And Chat GPT first response is, you're going to ditch those knives when you're inside.
Oh my
It's like,
gosh!
oh, come on.
Yeah, we
I
don't want to
think
start. We don't want to start that one.
I think Birdie has been influencing Chat GPT a little too much. Um, Let me see
Bertie, is
if
that you at Jeff H? Jeff H is all over the place. He did an AI version of himself that it is Birdie.
So it says you're going to get those guys once you're inside. You're going to ditch those ties. I mean, it's basically just looking for words that rhyme with the fourth word in the whole thing.
I mean, I would believe that if
Uh,
that conversation had any significance, they would asked him about it.
yeah.
Was there anything spoken on your way to the grub truck that would have given you any insight to anybody harassing either one of the girls? Did they mention anything? Did you see anything abnormal?
Let me see if I'm going to say what was said would maybe need to make sense with the next thing that was spoken, which is
I mean, after
Maddie. What did
listening,
you say to Adam?
I mean, hearing other people's perception of the conversation, I did get to a point where I heard, they're going to get you for this, Maddie. Because that's what people were hearing at the very beginning. Maddie, what? And then it says, Maddie, what did you say to Adam?
Right.
Like, I told Adam everything. And that in sequence insinuate that that was the beginning of the end in a lot of people's mind. Is that not correct?
Right. And maybe, yeah, and maybe people thought they were hearing Maddie in what Jack Showalter was saying, because the word Maddie is spoken in the very next sentence from
I mean,
Kaylee.
he could have said cat macaroni. I mean, we're gonna get you some carbonara. I mean, anything. Or he could
Yeah.
have said that they're gonna get you for this, Maddie. I mean, whatever your perception is of it, stick to it. You know, we're just talking. We're not really.
Yeah.
We're not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm not. That's
But it
exhausting.
but it does seem to make sense to me that, with Adam is Jack D's roommate, right? I mean, if it was any conversation about Kaylee wanting to get back together with Jack D, and Maddie is very drunk, maybe Kaylee is concerned. It's like, Maddie, please tell me you didn't like open your mouth and say to Adam, share with Adam that I was talking about wanting to get back with Jack, because that's just going to get back to Jack because they're roommates. And
Right.
I really think it's much ado about nothing. I mean, I don't think it's anything to do with this crime unless you try and force it into the crime. I mean, people even try and force the square peg into the round hole so far that's like the the cashier at the grub truck, he's sitting on a cooler that has a Coke can that's a camera, and he's selling it to Joe Vito so Joe can take video of Kaylee with the can
Wow.
with the Coke can.
You are right on my brainwave right now, Jeff, because I was thinking that exact same thing. With Joe Vito even interviewed by the police because he seemed to be all up in the business. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of people,
I
a
mean,
lot
there's
of
like
people
you're
in that time frame, they appeared to me that they were only saying so much to police because they didn't trust them, or they didn't want to get implicated in something other than what the police were looking for.
or they saw what happened to Jeremy, the neighbor. I mean,
Yeah,
Jeremy spoke out and did a bunch of interviews, right? And then everybody was looking at him like he's the guilty one. They
right.
probably saw that and thought, "Oh hell no, I'm not getting in. I'm not saying a word." Gonna. There's people out there that just want somebody in proximity to this house, or in this town to be guilty, other than the one that actually did it.
So, is there anybody else that you can remember early on that you would have possibly? I mean, because I was early on in school and we were discussing how women more apt to kill with a knife,
Hmm.
because of the proximity, the personality, all that. Eighty
Right.
percent,
Hmm.
80%. So I was even going down that route. I was thinking, could it have been a woman? And I've heard people talk about that as well. And I was thinking, what woman would have been strong enough, fit enough, vengeful enough to be able to take out all four?
Right. And I mean,
I
if you think
couldn't.
about like Jodi Arias, when that happened in the Jodi Arias and what's his name,
I
the
don't
guy that
remember his
she's
name, but I know who you're talking
Alexander,
about.
Travis
Yeah.
Alexander. The very next day, I mean, Travis's friends were like telling the police, "You got to talk to Jodi Arias. We think it's pretty clear she's probably the one responsible." In this case in Idaho, the fact that there's nobody saying, "Hey, you ought to go talk to this Brian guy." Mainly because, I guess it sounds like at the college, the issues they had with him at the college with his behavior with women and the way he was, behaving around the students there. Doesn't it feel like maybe you got to be careful with stuff like that. You don't want to just, come out
But what
and
would it,
make accusations on the job
if you're
site.
going to frame somebody, Jeff, there has to be a major payoff. I don't believe that if he saw something or discovered something, would have been enough to frame him. What was the bigger picture of framing Brian? I don't believe he was an informant. What would have been the bigger picture?
Yeah, it would have had to be that somebody else did it, right? And then we gotta find somebody, a scapegoat. We gotta find somebody to pin it on.
How would they have came across Brian Koberger?
Yeah. And is it something that happened that night and they're like, "What did you do, dude? We gotta find somebody before, right away." I mean, they're
That's
gonna
what
be here.
that's what the
There's no
conversation
time.
that's what the conversation sounds like is somebody else did it and then it's like, "Oh, damn, what did you do?" Okay, we got to go find somebody in 8 hours to pin this on.
Right.
8 hours they had to pin this on this guy because you would have had to get skin cells, blood,
Hey, Leslie.
sweat. It's okay. We're all discussing both sides. So there's no one side in this chat. Okay, so be as you are. Have questions, ask them away. We're doing both sides, you know. So, but you get what I'm saying, Jeff? In 8 hours, you would have had to manifest skin cells, blood cells, all possibly sweat.
You
How
would
could you?
would you have known that Brian bought a? Are you going to go research like, okay, we're going to pin it on this guy Brian? Who's Brian? Well, we found him. He's got a white Elantra.
But what would have been
how do
what
you get
would
the
have
car
been
driving
the
around there?
what would have been the reason? What did he do? According to everything we've heard about him, he had limited contacts in his phone. He had limited contacts with people in Pullman. What did he do that would have given him the presence to be big enough in that area to frame him for a quadruple murder? Now, I could see Lee Harvey Oswald being framed. I don't want to get on that discussion, but if you know that has a lot more pull because he was in the mix with the big higher, you know, he was mingling amongst the people that planned the
Right.
crime. You know what I mean? So that would, if we use that methodology in this case, and people say there's higher ups, how would they have known about Brian? He wasn't even from the area.
Right. Right.
How would they have known? I mean, the only people that really knew about him were his professors, his coworkers, and the students. So you're
Yeah.
telling me a couple of students from WSU actually committed the crime? They got his sweat, they got his skin cells, they got his blood, and went to the crime scene and planted it.
Yeah. I can almost sound like as if law enforcement would say they run into somebody and say, "Hey, I got a friend who's a DJ. He's got something to tell you. Yeah, this guy is a little creepy. Maybe he'd be a good guy to frame." And law enforcement is like, "Good. Now you won't say anything, will you? Just you keep this hush hush." Yo, no, I'm a DJ. You can trust me. I don't get on a mic and talk to to a crowd of people. Yeah,
Right,
you trust me.
right. I mean, I don't know. I cannot wrap my head around that. I mean, I'm sure anything's possible. See, we're having an open-minded discussion tonight. Anything is possible. The outcome has already been discussed. You know, we already know the outcome. We haven't changed our view. We're just having an open-minded discussion tonight. It's okay.
And I just think
So,
too, it's like
what
what
would be the payoff, though? There has to be a payoff in everything that people do. People do not do anything without a payoff. So that's the question. He didn't get monetary value unless, okay, we framed you and we're gonna send you $100,000 for commissary and take care of you the rest of your life. Does that sound like something that you'd want happen to you?
right? I mean, what about when they used to talk about Kaylee having flushed hundreds of thousands of dollars down the toilet, and that was the motivation for them to take her life, and it's like
Well,
I
once
just don't
again,
see it.
how would Brian have had contact with the cartels or the Aryans or whoever ordered the hit?
Yeah, it's like as we talk about this, I can feel us getting more and more distance away from Occam's razor as we go on and on. It's like, and then I feel like, okay, this is the paths that these people go down, and it's like I'm more interested in understanding how it probably really happened rather than it's just to what do they say? There's an expression where it's like with regards to faith and religion. Usually it's applied, but it's like when people say, I just don't have enough faith to believe in that. You gotta have a lot of faith.
But do you get where I'm
Uh,
going with that, Jeff? Do you get the question that I'm asking? I'm not making fun of anybody For my mental capacity, I have to put two and two together equals this.
Right.
Other people don't have to, but I do. Okay. So if you're going to frame somebody, that person needs to have such a level of power that they're willing to risk everything to go spend the rest of their life in prison for.
Right.
Whenever he was at his level of peak of education. So, how much water does that hold in your mind?
Yeah, and they say he's pretty. He was. They said he was a brilliant student. He was recommended by a professor who didn't make a habit of recommending a ton of students. So if he's that extremely bright and intelligent, then why not go forward with the trial?
Why him? Why not Jeremy? Why not Enon? Why not Showalter? He was the last one to see him. That would have made more sense to me. You're the last one to see him. You have more aptitude to harm these girls than anybody else. Why not him?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. There's too much for me that seems to make sense. What is it they call when they're trying to figure out the type of person, a profile. They do like
Profile.
a
Yeah.
profile on somebody, and this just seems like. I mean,
Well, he
could you
met
hear
the
some?
profile. He met the profile.
Yeah, could you see like in the beginning of this when we didn't know who he was? I remember thinking, and a lot of people were talking about this. Is probably somebody that's not from around here. This is somebody that has come into the area that's not a regular from here.
Well,
And
how much did you envision the killer looking like, BK?
before they announced the arrest, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I know early on we were looking for Elantras and in Google Earth and Google Maps.
No, but what kind
We
of what kind of guy did you envision? Because I really didn't
Oh,
have a
look at, yeah.
picture. I didn't really have a picture in my mind whether he would have been young, he would have been older, he would have been, disheveled looking like Dahmer or clean
Right.
cut like Bundy. I mean, I didn't have a vision in my mind as to what he looked like. I could not envision the look. I never thought he would have looked like a frat guy. That didn't make sense to me. The boyfriend angle, I was kind of stuck on that a little bit. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
yeah, we kind of leaned towards that too. Like we were, you know, the fact that Jack and Kaylee had recently broken up, we were initially, that's, definitely where our brains first went to, or my brain first went to. We even found on Google Earth like the house where Jack's parents, I think, live, and there's those
Yeah,
photos where they took the photos of there's like a pickup, a brown pickup, Toyota pickup truck, and there's Jack there, and there's Murphy. We
yeah.
found that spot. We were looking at the houses. We was like, this is the house right here. And then we found somebody sitting in a Elantra like 4 blocks down, which was at a school, which was apparently the school that I think Jack D's parents worked at, and it's like, you know, when we saw that, it's like, oh, this has got to be the solution. This got to be the answer right here. There's a white Elantra just down the street. But yeah, I think in the beginning I was more just trying to figure out how was this done? How was this pulled off? How are 4 people gone? I remember thinking, and maybe it's because of the movie Silence of the Lambs. I was like, well, somebody with night vision goggles would have an advantage over everybody
Right.
that couldn't see in the dark, and you know, a knife
I mean,
comes
did you
flying
ever
at you.
think? Did you ever think that you know it could have been anybody? Like, remember there was two people arrested right before right after the murders. I mean, I'm talking instantly right after the murders. The murders happened, and probably the next day, two people were arrested. And we never heard anything else about those two people. But they
Hmm.
were arrested, and I always thought, okay, well, they caught the perpetrators. And people were quick to start talking about that as well.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I don't remember that. I remember
there was
right before they announced Brian, they were announcing the name of some other guy, and
no, there was
I
there was
probably pulled.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember pulling his Facebook page pictures and pictures with his buddies, and man, that poor guy. And
No, there
just
was
for
two
like
people.
an hour, he
There
was.
were two people arrested, and then they started talking about the red Mustang and how they found that Mustang and that it had been
Oh, it was,
cleaned and all that other stuff. I mean, it was
yeah,
just a
yeah.
big old thing about the trailer park. Remember that guy that shot that other guy previously, and then they were trying to say it might have been him, and there was a lot of things where people were trying to pin certain things to make these individuals possibly be guilty, you know?
And wasn't there a guy? There was a guy that was a little rough with his wife. Um,
That was the
that
guy
they were
that
looking at.
killed that was the guy that killed um the wife's I think she was having an affair with another dude
Uh,
and he killed him. It was out at the trailer park.
yeah, yeah.
I saw a video today on TikTok where somebody posted um Steve Gonsalves' brother next to an RV and he's talking about this guy inside that is unresponsive, that he can't get his friend awake, and his name's Nathan Gonzalez, I guess. And
Nathan. Yeah.
he said that he's homeless and this and that and the other. And this video was supposedly done in 2021. I remember they were putting a lot of stock in Steve possibly um having knowledge of the killer. I mean, that's what I don't understand is like people would get mad at you for not saying presumed innocent, right? When it came to
Right.
Brian. But they never said, well, Steve is presumed innocent until guilty. They never said Dylan's presumed innocent until proven guilty. Bethany is presumed innocent until proven guilty. They don't say that ever.
Right.
Demetrius, presumed innocent until proven guilty. Emma, presumed innocent until proven guilty. All these people had something to do with it beyond a reasonable doubt in their eyes. But there's no way that Brian could have been stable enough, mentally stable enough, coordinated enough, strong enough, had the stamina enough, had the knowledge or insight enough, or even the understanding to have committed this crime.
Remember when, remember when people were saying that the shower picture, the next morning, was a picture to show his mother, to say, "Look, mother, I was able to button my top button." Remember when they were
Yeah.
saying that?
Oh,
It's
I
like,
got people came after me on that one when I posted that on my community post. I posted him with it was a cartoon that I had made on ChatGPT and it had him buttoning up the button, but on the in the back it said I don't know, it was like a scorecard or something, I guess, and it said I did it. I got the button right and it had like missed opportunities and made or something, like a scorecard. When people were
uh
coming after me thinking that I was making fun of autistic people and I wasn't.
right, yeah, I got pretty blasted by someone on YouTube for, they assumed I was making fun of autistic people as well. I was just simply asking the question, if because if you are autistic, does that mean you can never ever do anything violent? And it's impossible. I was just asking because I don't know. I just asking the
Right,
question.
right.
boom, I was blocked and I was yelled at and I was like, but
I think they were trying to correlate that because most mentally ill people don't commit violent crimes. And I'm not saying
right.
that autism is a mental illness. I'm saying anybody with mental illness, such as OCD, ADD, all this stuff, have they done it? Yes. Is it carpe diem? No, it's not. And I've read plenty of books by professors and stuff on this channel where they discuss that mentally ill individuals, more often than not, do not kill or become serial killers. So, for that little bit of info, I guess.
Yeah. But you think about it. You think about it. Murphy, stop barking. No, just kidding. Yeah, I know.
You tell Murphy to shut up.
Yeah, this is the one dog that's allowed in my area, just like in Moscow where they only have one dog.
You remember the token Asian? I mean, I started joking about that because that's how people were viewing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still fairly convinced. I mean, that woman that's walking in front of Brian's car when he got pulled over for the crosswalk, being in the crosswalk violation. I mean, she doesn't look that different from what's her name, Na Young Ko, the one
Yeah.
the one that liked Brian and worked with him. Um, yeah, we
Well,
talked
that
about that.
lady,
It's like it was Brian on his way there to pick her up, and then
right.
she sees like, oh my gosh, she's pulled over, and I'll
I'm
just
out of
walk up
here.
and down the sidewalk a couple times. I don't want to get myself involved in this.
Right. Boy, she dodged the K bar, didn't she?
Yeah. It's too bad too. It makes you, because I think I was talking somewhere even just today about like if I had a time machine, what would you do? You'd go back and tell like everybody in the house like don't stay in that house tonight. Or there was a moment that like for crossed my mind. It's like if I had a time machine, I might go back and see if there's any way to befriend Brian and maybe be the 19th contact in his phone, right? And just try to talk some sense into him like, hey man, things are like in AA, don't they say there's an expression, 5 minutes from the miracle? It's like when you got that temptation, you're trying to stay sober, you don't want to drink, you're trying to, you know, you're fighting against the urge that will just take you down a dark path. Sometimes you might just be 5 minutes from the miracle. If you can just wait 5 more minutes, maybe that feeling will subside, and you will no longer want that which you're trying to quit. And but like, is there a chance that like if somebody like Brian had just had a good friend that they could have listened and made Brian think, because there's always a chance, like as he's going around 5 times in that neighborhood in his Elantra, you don't think at one of those times there was maybe a thought like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe that's why he went around 5 times. Not, it wasn't just scoping it out. It wasn't just like, oh, scoot, I'm scoping it out, and it looks like they got a food delivery. Let me try and keep a close eye on this one. At the same time, making sure she doesn't see me, hopefully. And don't you think a part of me wonders if, like, towards the end, when the videos of Molly talking about this, on the body cams, do you think there's a possibility that Brian thought, oh shoot, that damn DoorDash driver did see me? It's like I tried. I mean, you can see it. We were looking at that last time we did a live. We were looking at it on the camera. He sure seems to be going up Walenta Hill very, very slowly, kind of like he's looking over to see. He's like, oh, she's still here. Damn, how long is this DoorDash driver going to be here?
Right.
How much longer can I wait till the DoorDash driver leaves? And don't you think it seems to me like I don't hear a lot of other people talking about it that way as we were analyzing it. And I think the problem is like they can't see it that way because they've closed the door to that it could be Brian. And when you close the door to that, I mean, I think you got to leave all doors open at least to some point. I mean, am I going to sit here and think like some of them think? Maybe they probably think that Bill Thompson, you know, maybe it wasn't a K bar, maybe it was a guitar. Think
I
Bill
mean,
came in with his guitar.
it's interesting to when you're talking about all that stuff. It's interesting to really see the perception in which people um put these stuff together. Put this evidence together that they see, what they read, um, how in fact they do get to their conclusions. You know what I mean? Like what I was just saying is, how I used to ask, well, how can you deduct Brian from the crime? And that was the wrong question to ask a lot of times. You know what I mean? How
Hmm.
can you deduct Brian from the crime? And that would never end well. So then I started asking, well, how can you put him into the crime scene? Well, the knife sheath, blah, 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 the Elantra, this, that, and the other. And then, people start calling you names, start calling you those names and stuff like that. When you're just trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And that, in reality, I believe, and I could be wrong, Jeff, I'm not speaking for you, but um, I don't know what's going on, Leslie. I really don't. I honestly thought that that was you. I don't have a clue who that is. I know it's not me, so
You
I
thought
don't
what
know.
was who?
I don't know. She's saying that somebody's impersonating her name. I thought that that was her. I
in
don't
the
know.
in the chat?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I see where she says it's not me, 12 gauge.
I don't know. I don't have a clue. Jeff and I have been up here, so it's neither one of us. You know. I will. I will. I will try to find out. No problem. No harm done. Sorry that that happened to you. I really thought it was you. Have no clue. But like what I was
But yeah.
saying, Jeff,
Hmm.
if you're able to not put somebody at a crime scene, just like the same way the people that put him at the crime scene have the sheath, have the Elantra, have this, that, and the other, wouldn't you be able to put like give an alibi for him that would be viable? You would be able to discount all the stories that have been stated about him. Um, have definitive things, that you can't dispel as him not being the person. You know what I mean? Other than just putting other people in that place. Like I could say it was you,
Hmm.
and I could make an argument for that, but would that make it true?
Right.
I've seen you flash that. Hush, Murphy. I've seen you flash that K bar and the sheath
Right.
online more than once.
Oh, believe me, that's why you haven't seen it that much, because I considered, things like that. Because like if the person who was Papa Roger, whoever that is, it was
Yeah,
not me, but whoever that is, I'm sure they learn quickly that a lot of people can start to think you know, it's
yeah.
and
I mean,
what's interesting though. Mhm. Just
just
like
like
what?
you've been mistaken as to be a federal agent. I mean, that's been going around for a long time.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm fed, fed up. Wait, do I
Fed
still
up.
have that? Do I still have that
Fed up.
avatar?
Yeah.
Here we
But
go.
do you get what I'm
I'm
saying? I
fed.
mean, is there anything, if you were to try to envision something, and I know it's difficult for you because it's difficult for me, but if you were to magically give yourself a lobotomy and
Hmm.
give Brian the benefit of the doubt, is there any way that you could see that he was not culpable? Is there anything that gives you any inkling other than what's been spread a million times over? Is there anything that would tell you, okay, well, he was here at this time. There's no way he could have done it.
Right.
Other than
Well,
manipulating the times and all that other stuff, we can make we can make things be what they want to be. But is there any way that you could take him out of the equation and not even try another perpetrator? Just take him out of the equation. Is there any
well,
way that you
it
could
does
do
seem to
that?
me. It does seem to me. In now we haven't heard the interview that the police did with Brian, but we have seen the transcript, and he seemed to behave in interviews with police a whole lot different than like everybody else that we've heard interviewed. He seemed to be, it was a bunch of small talk about nothing having to do with the case. And then the moment they started talking about the case, lawyer up. It's like, that's very different from, what like Jack D. And wait, you were saying just somebody earlier gave their DNA sample right away.
Hmm.
Everybody. It just seems like just makes you wonder if the innocent people speak freely, speak for a long time, tell you all they know, and it just makes me wonder if the guilty people, when they hear the questions, they're like, I need a lawyer. You know, doesn't prove, it's not like you can't just prove it based on that alone, but it's like,
Hmm.
that seems, also what's very interesting to me, this is a thought as you were talking earlier. You ever hear them on the other side? They're saying, "Well, how could they clear like Jack D so quickly? How could they clear Jack Showalter so quickly? Haven't they cleared Brian pretty quickly in their minds? Yeah, it's not Brian. It's like
Yeah,
right away, it's not Brian. But why are you clearing him so quickly? If you consider, at least from my
because it was
perspective,
because there
you
was
know,
no evidence to tie them to the crime. I'm sure that some of those redacted names that we saw in that DNA swab were those people. And their DNA would be there for a reason. Most of them had been there partying and everything else. But was there any of the DNA found on the knife sheath? Was there any other DNA found on the victims?
now if they have body cam video of their interview with Brian, do you think that will be released? Do they generally release that in other cases?
They might release it, but they didn't have body cams. Unless they videoed it with like a regular video
Like a
camera.
phone or something? Yeah.
Because the Pennsylvania, we had heard very early on, that Pennsylvania didn't have body cams. So there's not going to be body cams of them busting the door down or whatever people were assuming. Because we were told early on they didn't have body cams during that time.
But though, didn't they say that Detective Payne was watching what was happening from a like some video hookup? It seems to me if you can see it remotely on video, that also would indicate that you can press a record button
Well,
and record
possibly
this.
that I mean, that's a fine line right there. Are you recording him legally or are you recording him illegally?
Hmm.
Do you have a warrant for that video recording? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you
Maybe.
just can't infringe on people's rights like that. I mean, that is infringing their rights of privacy. So, if there was no warrant, you can't just videotape somebody because you have I mean, you can survey them, but when it comes to any kind of using that for evidentiary value, you would need a warrant.
Hmm. Well, I mean, shortly after they were breaking down the door, so I think they had the warrant. I mean, at that point, once you've got the warrant in hand, is that when you hit the record button and you are
Maybe,
capturing everything?
maybe.
I mean, I think the thing that'll be interesting, the thing that we don't experience that law enforcement experienced, and I think it's what Olivia, why she wanted to talk to law enforcement, like alone, is that they interacted with Brian. They have insight, that we don't have, and I'm sure. I mean, my gut feeling is that you talk to one of these officers that saw all this, and they're like, "Oh, we kind of all talked about it," and it's like, this is sure seems like it's got to be the guy. There's just so much. I mean, the way he does this, the way he does that, the way he does this, the way he said this, the facial expressions. I mean, like right now, we're judging Bethany and Dylan and everybody else that they've interviewed. We're judging them based on just the sound of their voice because their faces are blurred. But that's the other thing that law enforcement has is the ability to see their facial expressions. I think you can tell when somebody's lying just looking at their face. The way they. Isn't there some theories like if you look off to the right, it means something. If you look off to the left when you're talking,
Yeah.
one is truthful, one is maybe not so much. I know it's
But I
all
think
that.
I think people give police a lot more credit than they when it comes to this stuff because I have affidavits come in front of my desk almost daily. I have the evidence. I have the video. I have the CD that showed the video footage, all this, that, and the other of the crime. I have the police officer's statements. When that person comes into my office, they're still presumed innocent until they go to court. So when people state, well, when the investigators are investigating them or interrogating them, they're just interrogating them. It's not their job to prove innocence or guilt at that point. And it's really not anybody's job until the jury deliberates to prove innocence or guilt.
Yeah, so it's more of
So
a
all
fact
this,
finding mission and a cataloging of everything in the proper way
yeah,
for
yeah.
court. Yeah.
It's a process from the very beginning, from the 11:56 phone call to dispatch. From that moment till he pled guilty has been a process. And people are being prevalent, including myself, to to be um to be shown the evidence, whether it was going to be used in trial or not, to assume that everything that's being shown to us was in some way going to be used is to manifest your biasness on what side you want this evidence to be used on, whether it be for or against. And that's understandable. But
Right.
in reality, we don't even know some of this was even going to be used in the form of the trial. And to answer your question, Bullets, is I'm doing deferred prosecution cases, but I get shown the police report, the probable cause affidavits, all that, and I get to go to court on Monday. So yeah, wonderful. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot harder to do in real life than it is on YouTube. I promise you. I mean, on YouTube, you don't, you get the evidence, you have the ability to say, this is what I think, this is what I believe, this is what this is what my opinion is. Where in real life, you're really dealing with somebody's life. And you can't just say, well, this is what I think, because you need to prove it. You can't just say, well, this is what I believe, or this is what I think happened, because this looks more reasonable than not reasonable. You know what I'm saying, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense or not? I mean, is what I'm saying making sense to you, or do you believe this is making sense to the audience?
About what we were talking about before you, the question
Yeah,
from.
as far as the process, as far as
Yeah, yeah.
from 11:56 till he pled, that process has been happening behind the scenes for a long time before we were given all this supposed evidence. Well, there's a
Right.
reason why it doesn't make sense because possibly the pieces that don't make sense weren't even going to be presented at the trial as evidence.
Right. So it's kind of like if you look in the kitchen and the spice rack, we know we're going to look at that whole spice rack, but we're not going to use all of it when we make the meal. So just like all the stuff that we're seeing for this case, just like you're saying, yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's
probably not
interesting
all
to
of it is
talk
going to go.
about. It's interesting to talk about between us, you know. But in reality, if we're really gonna, and I've said this since day one, in reality, the trial was just gonna be very minuscule
Hmm.
because it was such a short time. You're not gonna have a trial. It was given 3 weeks, right? Isn't that what the judge had allotted? 3 weeks or 3 months? I can't remember.
I think yeah, I think it was pretty long actually. Maybe the months. Maybe it's probably more likely months. Let me see.
I think he gave it 2 months and then a month to deliberate the sentencing. But still, I mean, that's quite a long time for the time frame of the crime in itself.
Yeah, 3 months. It was initially projected to last up to 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So your memory's good. You got a good memory.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you, Bullets. You know, so I hope that, you know, some of the stuff that we've talked about tonight has really, for the lack of a better word, is just given a different perspective when we're looking outside the box. And that's what we've tried to do tonight. We're not really pushing any kind of agenda. Do you believe we are, Jeff?
No, no, just having discussion about it. It's almost like stream of consciousness, whatever comes to mind, on the subject, and whatever other thoughts get triggered by the previous thoughts. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting what you were talking about with like that not everything's would probably have been used in trial. I mean, do you think? And you would know better than me, but I would imagine in trial they would probably opt to not show a ton of stuff because it would just overwhelm the jury. They just want to show just what's needed to make a clear case. Like these are the main points. Don't get lost in the weeds, with all this other stuff. Although I mean, it sure seemed like they did have a lot of witnesses that were on lists. I mean,
Yeah.
what would all these if this is a crime that, as I believe, I was just today saying I think he probably went into the house around 4:10, maybe, left out of there at 4:19. So maybe like this is a 9-minute thing that happened in the house. It's a short moment of time. I mean, what all, I'm sure, they would have been discussing how well they could track the vehicle with all the data, cell phone towers, you know, phone activity, or the bizarre phone activity of his phone being turned off at that kind of opportune time. The Elantra, his physical ability to do a crime like this. I'm sure Anne would have talked about that.
I mean, it's kind of
You
like,
know,
let's say that you go to the doctor. He says, you know what, Jeff, you have high blood pressure, um, you have gout, blah, blah, blah. And it really pisses you off, right? And you say, well, every time I come, you give me bad news. And somebody says, well, go get another opinion. And you keep going to a doctor until you find one that says, Jeff, it's really not that bad. He was just trying to scare you.
right,
Are you going to go with the first doctor's opinion, or are you going to go with the one that placates you?
right. I guess it depends on maybe too if you're a hypochondriac type. You're like, I'm very sick. I know it, doc. I'm not
You
sick.
get what
I'm
I'm
going to another
saying?
doctor.
You get what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? It's like you're going to go with the doctor that says, well, it is getting to that point, Jeff, but you're good overall. I wouldn't worry about it. And then you can't walk because
right. Do
you're
people kind of
gout.
do that with like the what do you call it? The people that assess your home's value. If
Yeah,
you don't like the first one, it's like, okay, let's pay another $500 for the another guy to come out and assess the value of our
exactly.
house, so we
And
get it.
I believe that that's what's happened with this case is so many people have different forms of belief that you're kind of paying for their the least restrictive belief on it. Like I believe there was four vicious murders. We talk about the blood, we talk about the injuries, whatever. While another channel might believe that there was no blood, there was no injuries that severe, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's what your level of comfort is, I guess, and bias. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it
Yeah, and
did.
it's unfortunate that there's so many that don't that distrust law enforcement. Um, I often like to think about like the fire department. I mean, do we distrust the fire department when they show up at the house? Hey, we're here to put the fire out. No, I don't think it's a fire. I just you guys can go home. I don't trust you guys. It's just don't bring your water into my house. But it's on fire. We're the ones that would you don't want. Okay,
I only trust the
so
fire department if none of them run over a water hose, you know.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I could not resist. You set me up for that, man. I could not resist. I'm sorry. You know, have any of your firefighters ran over the hose? Okay, then you can put out my fire. Okay, you're cool.
Right. But I mean, if with I don't know, like if the police there in the town were involved with something shady, don't shady things usually make you a lot of money? I mean, are you able to hide that fact? Now maybe I'm being naive, and maybe I'm thinking like it's just Mayberry with Andy Taylor and Barney Fife, but where it would be nice to think you can just trust all law enforcement. I guess I know humans are humans. Sometimes you can trust them, sometimes you can't.
Well, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward this, Jeff. How about the recent case where they beat that boy to an inch of his life, and it was the frat boys, right? If it was the same scenario, and they arrested those kids, and I believe that they're prosecuting them, right? So they would arrest them for almost killing somebody, but they wouldn't arrest them for killing somebody. They would hide that and sweep that under the carpet. Make that make sense to me.
I'm not sure which case is this.
Well, there was a case recently where a fraternity beat the hell out of this guy. He was a DoorDash driver, I think, and they beat him to an inch of his life. Man, they tore him up pretty good, and they arrested him. I don't know if they've gone to court yet, but if they arrested him for that, but they excused the Sigma Chi's for murdering somebody,
Right.
how do you draw the line? Okay, you're okay to murder somebody, but if you beat them to an inch of their life and they live, then we'll arrest you.
I just say, and when you think about the motivation of a murder, the Idaho four victims. I mean, I don't know. I don't see like a fight with the fraternity guys rising to the level where unless you got a nut in their midst. Sorry to use the term nut for anybody that's offended by the word nut, but this just seems to me like there's no surprise that our brains first went to like the ex-boyfriend. That seems like okay, that could be a possibility. My mind can't seem to go to like a drunk frat guy doing this because of that it was done in such a way that seems like it was done by somebody who's aware of how to not bring their DNA into the crime scene and to get in and get out pretty clean except for a knife sheath, which now I'm going off on a tangent, but now that instantly makes me think of Brian's research paper that he wrote about the woman that was stabbed in the house, and he was talking about having to be aware of that you don't want to take your DNA into the crime scene, and you also don't want to take any of the DNA out of the crime scene with you, when you go home. So just the research paper alone says that he's very cognizant and understands this DNA thing. And then to find out, when he was arrested, he's wearing rubber gloves and he's sorting through trash. And there was a report that I thought I heard that where he was in a supermarket wearing rubber gloves. And it just,
So if we take out how Brian looks, how Brian acts, and you focus just on everything you've heard about the crime, about the profile, about everything that they found that went through the labs and everything else. That's why a trial would have been so important. That's why a lot of people were upset. And I get that because we didn't get the opportunity to get our
yeah.
fair trial. We didn't get our opportunity to get our fair trial. People were upset when the house was torn down. It seems like a lot of things were done, probably like they're done all the way around in a lot of these crimes. But the fact that they're not as high profile and all the eyes are on this crime, we got to see more than probably some of these other places have been torn down. I did a live on a case here in Texas where they tore down the house. I believe that John Wayne Gacy's house was torn down. The apartment building where Dahmer lived was torn down. I mean, there's been multitudes of places that have been
Right.
torn down. Did they do it while the investigation was still going on? How the hell do we know? Would people still react the same? Or would they give the police an excuse in that aspect?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad because the trial, a trial to me it seems like it's nothing more than it's a tennis match. The defense makes a statement, and this is a strong statement that we believe, and would influence the jury. The prosecution responds to it, and now their response will influence the jury, and it just keeps going back and forth and back and forth. And in it all, we learn so much from these are the most important things to the defense that they're going to say in court. This is the most important things to the prosecution, and we hear all these things and hear all these things, and then when we finally are making a decision for ourselves, because obviously it's not just a matter of like it's not cut and dry like, oh, here we have him on camera doing the murder. It's obviously him. He looks at the camera and gives a thumbs up, says, hi, my name's Brian, and that was me that just did this. It's not that cut and dry. So we are making we're making
I
a
mean,
more
even if
informed
that would have
decision.
happened, that wasn't him. That was AI.
AI, yeah, that was AI.
That was a hologram. That wasn't real. I mean, I guess we have to open our mind to believe that YouTube is for entertainment purposes. It really isn't for logic or realism. And
Well,
I
I was
guess that
talking to a guy at the dog park about similar stuff to this, and he was talking about he referred to it as like the hate industry. It's like people love to hate, and it's become an industry, and now you involve technology with it, and we get on here and we hate. Used to be like people in a neighborhood would get together and they'd gossip about somebody in the neighborhood that they hate. Now they're on YouTube and they're hating it on a on a global scale. I mean, do you think there's somebody in like some small country that's picking up YouTube and they're like you know they're on a little island, like, who is this Brittany J that everybody's every time I go to the YouTube, there's like 5 different channels bashing this poor woman. What is going on? like, you know, this industry of hate is
Perception
just amazing.
perception is an ugly beast. It really is. Because your perception and my perception could be totally different on something, or it could be totally aligned. And I've
Right.
shared this with you from the beginning. I didn't know if you and I were going to be able to hit it off because, you know, our earlier conversations, I felt like they were a tennis match. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, well, I'm going to have to convince this guy that we're saying the same thing. He's just not hearing what I'm saying. And
Right.
I think we got to that point. You know what I mean? Because
And I
a
think
lot of
I will admit I can be like that, and I think my wife would agree to that too. That I can. The thing is like if it's like I'm a video editor, and so
yeah,
I'm putting shots together. This one's and when I'm putting them together, I'm aware of like, okay, this shot is on screen for exactly 1 second. This one's exactly 1 second. This one's exactly 1 second and 4 frames. And maybe it's like a little ADD or something too. It's like that's gonna bother me. It's like I got to make
yeah.
this. What so when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they say we're in agreement, except there's just one little thing that's like, wait, that could be important enough to like actually the let's clarify that a little more, and I'll just want to talk about it a little more. And yeah, it can probably feel like that's kind of annoying. I thought we're like a 99.5% agreement on stuff. Why you got to pick up that little thing? It's like, well, that could be the one thing that unravels the whole thing. It's like,
The first incident that I remember was the frozen shock phase.
yeah,
That was something. I don't know if you've gotten past that or you understand it a little better, but that was something that you and I would talk about. And I was like, how can he not understand what freaking shock frozen shock phase is? And I know there are a lot of people that don't understand it, but I guess they could have used different lingo. I
yeah.
haven't heard
I was
in
wishing there was something more clear because, like,
yeah.
you can't Google it and say what is frozen shock phase. It's not like a common term. It's a
Well, people were
you
correct that that was law enforcement lingo. They were correct on that
now with
because
all the
I
recent
haven't heard
interviews.
her, I haven't heard her say anything about frozen shock phase. Have you?
Right.
Has
I don't
Dylan
think so.
said,
That's what I was
"Hey,
just going to ask.
I stood in the doorway in a frozen shock phase"? I haven't heard her say
Right.
that. So people were correct whenever they were, identifying that as, you know,
But because it's not clearly enough identified what the definition is, then that's problematic because then it's like, okay, was she in a frozen shock phase because she was like, I'm an attractive girl and this guy just walked past me and didn't even notice me. So I'm just standing here. I'm frozen. I can't believe this. I'm frozen. I can't even move. Or there's the one that's more likely where it's like, I didn't expect this guy to be walking past me and he's wearing a mask and this is kind of weird. What the hell's going on? And could it be I'm in a frozen shock phase because, oh my gosh, I'm very drunk and vulnerable and there's a strange guy here that I don't know in a dark house when everybody else is probably asleep, and plus there's weird noises going on, and if this is a prank that somebody's pulling and I'm seeing this guy, maybe he's seeing me, maybe I'm in danger. And the thing is, I personally think Dylan, if she thought she was in danger with seeing this guy, wasn't so much danger of death, but danger of like an SA type of situation. I think she
well,
does mention.
in reality too, Jeff, all this happened within a matter of seconds.
Right, right.
Seconds, minutes at most. This did not happen in slow
Wasn't in slow
motion.
motion.
It did not happen.
In the Lifetime movie, it will probably be in slow motion as he goes by.
Yes, it'll be
Yeah,
in slow motion. Um, she'll actually make eye contact with him. He might wink at her as he walks by. I mean, you just never know how they're
and
gonna.
there'll be like a voiceover, and it'll be long enough for her to say, "Who is this guy? What does this
Yeah,
mean?" is he a firefighter? He's wearing like the thing they wear under their helmets where you only see their nose and their eye a little bit and their eyebrow. Wow, those eyebrows are bushy. I hope I remember that when I'm sober.
I mean, I never want to be interrogated. I mean, I've seen interrogations, and I mean, she wasn't interrogated, she was interviewed. But even an interview at 19 years old can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Hell, I ask people all the time their perception of their crime and if they understand what it is that they're being brought before the court for and stuff. And most of the time, I get shrugged shoulders, muffled yeses. What happened? I don't know. Tell me what happened that made you do this. I don't have a clue, blah, blah, blah. I mean, so for her to say, I was drunk and remember minuscule parts of it, trauma does a lot to people. And I know people don't believe in trauma half the time. They don't believe that traumatic events do cause scarring in the brain that leave people with the ability not to remember certain things as clearly as they should.
Hmm.
But anybody who's ever had a friend murdered, or even a roommate, I wouldn't even say they were friends. There were, what, 5 people crammed in a house that happened to know each other. They might have been friendly, but we don't know if they were that tight. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I was going to say Dylan didn't, or maybe Dylan and Bethany both, didn't know birth dates of some of their roommates. Of course, nowadays that's the kind of stuff that the phone reminds you of. You don't have to hold on to that. So that's a bad example.
I had
But
sweet mates. I had sweet mates in the dorm that I didn't care for. If I would have heard fighting or stuff going on in there, I wouldn't have gone to check on them because I didn't care that much for them.
yeah,
We were friendly. We didn't fight. We didn't, all this and that. We clowned around when we were drunk. But as far as, if I heard weird noises or crying, you're on your own.
yeah.
And I'm a guy. But I'm just speaking for myself right now.
I really do want to listen more closely again to like Dylan's interviews and just try and separate and determine the tone that she's got in her voice and what she's saying is like, can you place yourself back at 4 a.m. when you didn't think anybody was dead? You're just trying to figure out what's going on. Can you get yourself back to that as you're talking 8 hours later when you realize your friends are dead and you're probably the only one who saw the killer? So there's a lot of pressure on you, and it's just. And I don't think she's able to articulate things very well.
I'm gonna do that on Monday, so maybe you can hop up on panel Monday when I'm playing that, and we can discuss it. It's a 2-hour thing, so I mean, we'll have to discuss. I mean, you're more than welcome to jump up on panel and discuss it with me, because
Sure.
I mean, I've heard parts of it, and I'm like, Jesus, she's all over the place.
Yeah.
I haven't
But I
heard
think
that.
it's hard to. I mean, I try to imagine what it was like around 4 a.m. I mean, there's stuff going on that she's hearing. How much of it, what she's hearing, is different than stuff on any other night in a party house? Where you're maybe you're hoping you can go to sleep and everybody's being loud and but there's in the fear factor that they seem to convey. And she says in the text messages to Bethany that she's scared. Now, is she scared of dying, or is she scared of the prank or whatever's going on, or is she just kind of scared because something's going on and she's drunk? I mean, like if you were in a building and it was on fire and you're drunk and you'd be kind of probably the anxiety of like, I'm drunk. Will I be able to get out of here? Will I be able to find the fire exit? Well, you know, What is going on? Am I imagining that fire? Is that real fire? I mean, I feel for her, and I don't know that I would ever get to the point where I could feel like I could throw her under the bus like she's been, and back over her multiple times with the bus. Um,
Well,
you know,
to
the
say that you and I would react a certain way at our age being drunk, would that be the same reaction at 19 that you would have had being intoxicated? I can tell you, being intoxicated at that age, passing out and waking up, you are not clear-headed no matter what people think or what they tell
yeah,
their viewers. You're not clear-headed. Your body is trying to get rid of the alcohol. Sometimes you're feeling sick, like you're gonna throw up. Maybe that's what caused her to wake up. Maybe she was dry heaving. You don't know. I mean, if she was as intoxicated as she claimed, everything might have seemed like a dream because you're hearing shit, you're seeing shit, and then on the next morning you wake up or you go downstairs when you have a moment of clarity and you say, I don't know what the hell's going on. I need to come down there. I just
right.
saw
And then you go down there, and your roommate Bethany is trying to reason with you. Like, maybe it was Xana that you saw. She was wearing all black. I mean, could you
right.
be imagining things? You are drunk, Bethany. I mean, you are seeing. Who knows if I mean, I wondered if there was anything else that they were on that they just didn't mention, but I don't think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I think she was kind of listing who kind of did drugs and who didn't, and I think she did. I thought it was interesting that she freely spoke about Ethan, maybe Ethan and Xana doing Adderall, but I mean, it amazes me. I don't. I mean, I think I'm a good judge of a person. And when people listen to her and say, "Oh, she's acting, she's lying, everything's a lie, everything out of her mouth is a lie," it's like, okay, we're definitely hearing things differently, because I hear her just she is just speaking about whatever's coming to her mind. She's trying to help. She's trying to remember. She's being honest to say, "Look, I don't know if this was a dream or not." And I mean that clip that did you hear that little clip from Vampire Diaries where the guy says, "It's okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
help you."
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's so easy to imagine that in her state that she, just like when we think we hear words spoken on the Linda Lane footage and we're not quite sure what they are, it's like maybe there was some words spoken, and in her mind it was replaced with the words from the Vampire Diaries episode, and that's why her memory was like, yeah, I think he said, like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," because the scene in the Vampire Diaries is very similar to what you might imagine in the house, except
I
the
mean,
girl
it's
is
so
laying on the
people
floor,
have
and
misconstrued that statement so much.
right in the Vampire Diaries episode, the girl is laying on the ground in the woods, and the guy comes up to her, and when she sees him, I don't even know the story. I don't know the characters. I don't know what's going on, but she seems frightened of him when she opens her eyes and sees who it is. And I think he says starts to get panicky, and he's like, "No, no, 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 it's okay, I'm going to help you," or, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." And then he yells to somebody and says, "Caroline, she's over here." And then I think the girl on the ground stabs him. Like I said, I don't watch the show. I had no idea what's going on, but that's the
Right.
scene. But it's so, what are the chances that they're watching Vampire Diaries and this guy says, "It's okay, I'm here to help you"? And it's interesting. He says here. We always talk about Dylan said, "It's okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to help you." But yeah, if anybody's looking for it, it's actually, I have the clip. I don't know if you. Well, I don't know if you can. Are you interested in seeing
No,
it?
I don't want to get copyrighted. No, it's good.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. But well, if you're
Y'all
looking
can
for
go
it,
check that out on Jeff's page. I think he has it.
no, I didn't post it anywhere, but I've got
Oh,
it.
okay.
I've got it on my hard drive, and if you search Vampire Diaries season 8, episode 12, and there's like a little trailer. It's just a little short piece, but 1 minute and like 18 seconds into it is where you'll hear the guy say that in that scene I just told you about.
I mean,
But I think it's noteworthy, definitely.
there's just so much that happened in short amount of time. It's hard for people to believe that this happened in a short amount of time, but in reality, it doesn't take no time to kill somebody. No time at all. And
You
if we look at the lady that lost her life in the train, she's actually
right?
sitting coherent with her hand on her neck, and then when she's bled out, she slumps over and she's dead. She
Yeah,
didn't scream, she didn't run, she didn't fight, she didn't do anything. She sat there
yeah,
with her hand over her neck until she slumped over and died. So, if you look at that as an example, and that dude stabbed her so quickly she didn't even know what was going on. She was looking at him like, what the hell just happened?
right. Nobody on the train knew what had happened. They're right
Right.
there. Yeah,
But all these examples don't make sense to people when you bring those up because there's no way that that same thing happened with Brian. There had to be screaming, there had to be rustling around, there had to be all this stuff. There had to be. Well, in all these other video images that we watch the people fighting, these people were awake in these other scenes.
yeah.
People don't believe that these people were asleep either. So even if they were awake, it could have been the same scenario.
Yeah, and the girl on the train, the Ukrainian girl on the train, I'm assuming was not like intoxicated. She didn't look like she was
No,
intoxicated. So.
no, she had just gotten off work.
I mean, the killer in that scenario had the element of surprise. I mean,
Yep.
in our reaction time on things like that are just so far out that we would never think is going to happen. As it's happening to us, our reaction time can be very slow. It's like, what did what just happen? You know, it's like,
Yes.
what
Did
about
I
the guy
really?
we were looking at?
Go ahead.
The remember the guy at the store with the with the glass counter, and the two guys come in to rob him, and the robber jumps over the counter. The store owner stabs the guy. He must have stabbed him like 15 times in like 10
Yeah.
seconds. And
Yeah.
and I didn't see any blood everywhere. I didn't see, that's the thing too. I didn't think about it till just right now. Now that guy had a bunch of clothing on, probably a jacket. If you stab somebody and then pull the knife out and they've got clothing on, now there's probably a hole. It's probably a very narrow hole, the size of the blade that went in and
Yep.
came back out, and now that exit is a slit, right?
Yeah.
What's it going to do? It's going to
And once your heart
bleed out
stops,
into the clothing. The under, the inside of the shirt is going to catch a lot of it.
right.
Unless you were completely naked and your skin is just open to everything, then I could
But
understand.
still,
Like, you know,
a lot of these photos that we see, their comforters are over them. So how much of that blood went into the
true,
comforter?
true.
Or once the heart stops beating, the blood stops circulating and it starts bruising beneath the surface and going into the lungs, into the area because it's no longer flowing.
And
So
wasn't
there's
there a
not
main
any,
artery that was hit in a bunch of the victims? Almost makes
yeah,
me think like this was he was
yeah,
targeting where to stab because he knew this would stop the heart. Probably be the you. It seems to me if you stop the heart, you stop the blood pressure, you stop that which is going to make the
of
blood
course.
spray out.
So
So
therefore he's
you go for
stabbing
that
after the
quick.
fact. Yeah, he's stabbing after the fact.
Yeah.
So that's why there's not a lot of blood spatter because it's being coagulated in the body.
And it kind of makes
Not
me
an
wonder,
actual,
Olivia was talking about this, what appeared to be stabbing after Kaylee and Maddie were already gone.
hmm
Kind of like what they call it, experimental stabbing. What if Xana went upstairs because she thought she heard some commotion while she was in the kitchen when the heavy stabbing was going on. Now they're dead. Sorry to be so crude. I hate to say that about some. Don't mean no disrespect, but they're gone now. She goes up the stairs, is curious what's going on. She heard commotion, and she looks in the room and sees him doing these experimental stabbings, and is like, "Holy crap!" and thinks that he didn't see her. Just in the same way that Dylan wondered if Brian saw her. So
Right.
she's up at the top of the steps, sees that, and thinks, "Holy shit!" Sorry, excuse my language, but she's got to. And then, is she going to yell and scream? No, I think she's going to try and get to Ethan as quick as possible, without making a lot of noise, to alert the killer that would, of course, chase her and do the same to her. So maybe, I mean, that could
And at the
be
same
some explanation for the quietness.
And at the same time, you just saw two of your best friends murdered. You're going to try to think, I don't want the other people hurt in the house.
Right.
Why are you going to scream to make everybody come out so other people get hurt?
Right. Her goal might have been, I just got to get to Ethan. He can protect me, and we can lock the door if I can get to my room. And I just don't think
Right.
that happened. I think the thud that we hear on the camera next door at 417, I mean, maybe he was right behind her and shoved her into the floor or the wall, or, you know,
He may have knocked her out.
yeah.
But we're almost at 3 hours, Jeff, so I'm kind of over this conversation. So I've
Yeah,
enjoyed
me
it.
too.
We
My
can
pillow
we
is
can
calling.
we can commence this back on Monday if you wish.
Yeah,
We'll watch
I
it.
think I'm. Yeah, I'll check. Let
Well,
me check my schedule and see. You're Monday night, obviously, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not
Because I'm
working.
off Tuesday, so there's real no rush to get that done. Maybe we can do the whole 2 hours. Who knows? But I've really enjoyed you being up on panel. Thank you so much for being here, and the people that have sat through the chat. Thank you so much. You are troopers. To the
Yeah, it's
mods,
good to see
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you for doing your job. I don't know if you have a question about your renters, why I wasn't there. Just go back and watch the video that talks about the devil has minions on YouTube, and that'll explain exactly what's going on with the channel. Y'all have an awesome day, night, morning, and y'all be safe out there and watch your six. Obviously, the Feed More QR code's been up for a while, so go check out that food pantry and give as you wish. Has nothing to do with the channel as far as me getting the donations. It goes directly to the people, and this is the breast cancer awareness, and this one is Heart Association. So if you want to donate, it has nothing to do with the channel. It doesn't come here. Go directly to the website. So Maestro, cue that music. Thank you once again, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, 12.